स्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहैः। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। The last few verses were about Karma Yoga. As we saw, Karma Yoga is a technical term. Okay? So that means it's not just being a good human being or ethical human being. It is a technical term which is the series of things which makes you a Karma Yogi is summarized in 4 verses of the Gita. The first we saw was what Nishchayatmika Buddhi. What did we understand by that Nishchayatmika Buddhi?
Taking decisions.
Nishchayatmika Buddhi, it means that once you recognize that the freedom that I am seeking in life is something that I am searching through different things, I will never get it the way I am looking for it. The freedom is only through self-knowledge, and the self-knowledge is of the nature that I am already free. Okay? And then the whole teaching shows you how you are free here and now. So that is something which becomes your primary pursuit. But in order to understand the true nature of yourself, you need to have a preparation. Okay? Why does one need to have a preparation? Because we saw that the mind has a tendency to project. Okay? In every small thing, what happens is that in simple situations, we are not just assessing the situations as they are. In a lot of situations, when we come across a certain thing, we add a lot of our own subjectivity. Okay? So, and then we respond to situations not in keeping with what is, but what we see is, and therefore at times we even if somebody did not mean anything, we just become very angry, or at times we are very sad, or at times we have a lot of anxiety about things, we have fears. So this means that you're not just responding to situations as they are, you are responding to situations according to what you have built as a reality, which may not correspond to what is. Okay? So now a mind which is for simple things, it is projecting. Okay? With reference to this reality which is so subtle and it is so different from everything else, when it listens to this reality, what will it do? It will again project its own meaning to it, will not understand it accurately. Okay? So that means you need a mind which is a non-projecting mind, which is in touch with what is, okay, in a day-to-day living. So how does one get that? So the verses were talking about, the first verse was Samatvam Yoga Ujjate. What is Samatvam? Generally the Samatvam, when people translate, which is true also, okay, they say equanimity. Now equanimity, people make it into an advice. They said, oh, you should be equal regardless of what situation arises. But the question is, how can you be equal? Right? In success and failure, when things happen your way and when things don't happen your way, how can you be equal? Everybody likes to be equal, but they can't be equal. So therefore, just to give an advice is not sufficient, right? Because how does it help me in any way? So this is where what Gita says is, it's not an advice, it is a teaching. Okay? So what Lord Krishna is saying is the fact that now examine, okay, the result of the action. Where does it come from? Okay? So we all have an illusion of controlling the result of action. Okay? And this is why you want, the whole life goes in manipulating situations according to how we would like things to be. Okay? We constantly try to get the whole world to move or to do things according to our needs. Okay? And how much are we successful? Are we all the time able to manipulate situations according to our needs or people according to our wishes? Are we? No. Okay? And in fact, that's why people like power, because the more power you have an illusion of more control. Okay? When you have more power, what happens? You tell somebody who's a subordinate, do this, right? Now the person, whether the person wants it or not, they have to somehow listen to you, because why? Their performance, their salary, all that depends upon the kind of grades or how much, what review you give them, right? So therefore people like power because it gives them the enhanced sense of controlling things. Okay? But in fact, you ask the most powerful person, who you think is the most powerful person, and ask him or her if they are really able to manipulate all situations and people according to their wishes or not. Are they? No. Okay? Even Obama, you ask him, the whole world is doing whatever he's supposed to be, what? The President of the United States, supposedly the most powerful, nobody works according to what he wants everybody to do. Neither in his own country nor externally in the world. Okay? So therefore, if things you don't control, the result of the situations means what? Results of actions. Okay? Then how does it happen? Where does it come from? Okay? So therefore, we saw that it is not random. If things were totally random, you will have no insight into, if I want to get this, I should do this. The very fact that you can say that if I want to achieve this result, I should do this, what does it mean? There are some cause and effect relationships. Okay? This is why we can plan, we can do everything, right? We can have a very detailed planning. If you go to management now, they have a very detailed planning because they understand this cause and effect relationship. Accomplish this is what we need to do. Okay? So that means that there are laws at work of cause and effect. So therefore, many times when you identify the right causes for accomplishing the results that you want, many times you have success. But in every given situation, there are many unknown variables. So therefore, your capacity to identify all the variables at all times doesn't exist. Okay? So now it doesn't exist, so does it then mean that the things are unfair? No. It only means that the laws of cause and effect operate from a much bigger, much bigger cause and effect chain. And you have knowledge of what? Very little. So that means with this little information that you have, when things don't go your way, what happens? You either start blaming yourself, or what do? You start blaming a particular person, or you start blaming the world. So this is what? You get into a completely unhealthy mode, which makes you a person who is dissatisfied, who makes you a person who is not content, complaining, and that kind of a frame of mind, is it something which is helpful for you to achieve what you are looking for? In fact, it is detrimental. Okay? So this is where Lord Krishna is saying that once you understand that the laws are never failing, they have a much longer time frame than your knowledge, what will you do? All this energy that you waste in complaining and being dissatisfied or calling yourself failure is now what? It is going to go because you understand that hey, there is a much bigger picture than what I can understand. When you free all this energy of this vicious circle, what do? You can use that energy to constructively what? Do something. If you really want something, do something to get it. So that means it is rechanneling of the energy. rechanneling of the energy based on certain realities. Okay? Certain facts, understanding certain facts that the results come from the laws which are never failing. Okay? And given that, it doesn't do me any good to just get into this failure mode or blame mode. Okay? And therefore, this is something which helps me to take care of a lot of things. If I really begin to see the order, this is what we call the prasada buddhi. Prasada buddhi is that even though something that you don't like very much, let's say this for a diabetic person, laddu is something which is not good for the person, but the minute the person knows it is from Tirupati, what will be the attitude of the person? Person may not eat the whole laddu, but take a little and still be what? Thankful. Okay? Now imagine if you see these laws are not just kind of dry laws. Okay? They are one manifestation of Ishvara. If the laws of karma are manifestation of Ishvara, any result that comes to you is what? From Ishvara in form of law of karma. Okay? So when it comes from Ishvara, what is your attitude? Whether you like it or you don't like it, you say that, hey, there is a much bigger logic than what I understand, and you are. Somehow you can maintain a certain equanimity. And that equanimity, with the knowledge that there is manifestation of Ishvara in form of law of karma, gives you basically a satisfied psyche. When you have a satisfied psyche, you can actually use, it's not like people think it's fatalistic. It's not fatalistic, because you can use your free will much more effectively than when it is bogged down or it is colored by all the dissatisfaction. Okay? So therefore, this is the first aspect of Karma Yoga, that is to have that samatvam based on the fact that the laws bring me whatever situations that I go through in life. Okay? Now the second thing is to avoid this particular thing of, oh, then everything is Ishvara and is giving me everything exactly perfectly, so why should I do anything? And this, to take away this misconception, Lord Krishna talks about the fact that karmani eva adhikara. You have a right, you have a choice over action. So that is your power. So don't underestimate this power of free will that you have. But how does one use that power? Karmaha su yogaha karmasu kaushalam. Okay? When I perform an action, generally what is the guiding factor for my action? How do I perform an action? Why do I perform an action in the first place? Why?
There are two ways of looking at it. One is for my own, what I want, and if I want to do something for someone else. There are two different ways.
Okay, wonderful. So that means both these can be categorized in one category, which is what we call raga. Raga and dvesha.
Yeah.
So my all action is, raga is something that I like. What I like can be very different, right? Some people like just whatever satisfies them. Some people like something which satisfies bigger needs of larger groups of people, okay? But still they are likes only. So the whole world engages in activities to get what they like and to retain what they like, okay? And to avoid what they don't like and to get rid of what they don't like. Okay? The whole activity that we have is for gaining or getting rid of. Okay? Now, how much are we successful in always getting what we want and avoiding what we don't like?
Not always.
Not always, right? So that means that if the only criteria for engaging in the world is to maximize my gains, okay, and to minimize my pains, then I will be what? An emotional roller coaster. Why? Because I can't always get what I want and I can't always avoid what I don't want. Okay. Now, this particular thing, that raga dvesha becomes, if they are the center of my action, then this emotional roller, we are not calling it bad or anything, please understand, we are not naming it as some enemies or anything, this is how it happens. Okay? So that means that raga dvesha, when they are the guiding factor for my action, disappointments are unavoidable. Okay? Now I can say that yes, raga dvesha is something which is fine, but I need to take care of a certain criteria. Okay? I can't just go by what I like. There is a break. What is that break? That break is what we call kaushala. That break is that of dharma. Okay? Dharma means that there are certain universal values that every individual is born with. Okay? Every child, regardless of male, female, regardless of nationality, religion, nothing, without any teaching from anyone, knows that I don't want to be hurt and others don't want to be hurt by me. Okay? I don't want to be lied to and others don't want to be lied to me. So these become the universal values. So what Gita says is, you can go with your likes, but don't just go with your likes at any cost. What do? You take into consideration dharma. Because if you don't take into consideration dharma, there is loss. So we had analyzed in detail the nature of loss. Okay? It results in guilt, fear, low self-esteem, suspicion. So a lot of things happen which are intangible. So that's why you think that there is no loss, but this is all a loss. Okay? So now, karma yoga, imagine now, because life is nothing but series of what? Performing an action and receiving the result. When you perform an action, if you are able to be sensitive to the needs of others, okay, and look at yourself as somebody who is acting, now this is something which is going to come a little bit later, but as somebody who is part of one whole system of things, and when you go against dharma, you are not only what? Going against what your peace of mind, but you are disturbing the whole ecology of things. So imagine with that consideration you perform an action, your actions are going to be of much what? They are going to be much more sensitive. Okay? And when you take whatever result which comes, even if it is not according to your preference exactly, you understand that the laws are infallible and therefore reduce your reactions. So now the same karma which was giving you emotional ups and downs will give you an opportunity to grow as a human being. Okay? So this is how karma yoga was talked about, that karma yoga, now you are performing a karma for the sake of what we call antakarana shuddhi. Antakarana shuddhi means reducing your subjectivities, right, and seeing things as they are. Because when you begin to incorporate dharma, you see what? The laws of dharma which are existing, which you may not have recognized the importance of those dharmas and following those dharmas accurately. And when the results come, you see that there are laws of karma. So this is all reality based. Now, there is a question of Arjuna that we will see in this class, and the answer to it is something that Professor Kulkarni had a question last time, and he said that every time people are talking about, okay, my dharma and my receiving the results of the actions, why are we not talking about what? Your contribution to the society or growing as an individual? So now the third aspect of karma yoga is becoming bigger as a person and becoming contributor in the society. Okay, so now before that verse comes, there is a question by Arjuna, and Arjuna is asking this question. Jayasi chet karmanaste mata buddhir janardana tat kim karmani ghore ma niyojayasi keshava. So Arjuna is asking this question, that now what I hear from you is moksha is only through self-knowledge. Okay? So what I need to know is the fact that I am already free, and that is something that I need to pursue. Then you are also saying that I should perform karma. So if knowledge is something which is going to give me moksha, why should I perform action? Why should I not just leave everything? This is our cliche. A spiritual person leaving everything, going to Himalayas, meditating, going to a guru, and what? Learning whatever is the truth of the world. Okay? So Arjuna felt that I have to do the same. Why are you now asking me to stand here and fight? And not only you are asking me to do something simple, right? If I have to continue my day-to-day life, which is my simple life, it's okay. But here it is ghora karma. Here it is what? What was Arjuna supposed to do?
Kill his relatives.
Yeah, the whole war, which meant destruction of it. It meant mass destruction. Okay, so this is where he says that if knowledge is something which is going to give me moksha, why are you asking me to perform an action? And not just an ordinary action, this ghora karma. Okay, so this is where Lord Krishna answers by saying that leaving everything is not really the solution. Because if you don't have the maturity, if your mind is projecting, you can run away to Himalaya and you will still be irritated by small things. Right? So at least when you are in the world, you come to know, when you interact with the world, that oh, now here this situation is a trigger for my anger. So then you deal with it. Okay? But if you run away there, you deprive yourself of an opportunity to deal with anything, and you continue with the same mind. So when you continue with the same mind, a small event of some car passing by when you are meditating, you get angry. Because if anger is there, any small situation will trigger that anger. It doesn't have to be that you are working, So that means the solution is not to remove yourself from everything, but to stay there and change the very attitude of how you perform an action. Change your understanding of things. That's when, in fact, our teacher used to say, if the world is problem for you and you want to run away to spirituality, that will never get you anywhere. You have to stay right there, make it a non-problem, and then you're free with reference to that. Okay? Running away is never a solution. Okay? So this is where Lord Krishna says.
This is the sannyas versus tyaga.
No, this is something which is, he is talking about yajna. So now he is talking about how this action that you perform is no longer for your, it's coming to your question, right? It's not, if Arjuna performed this war for the sake of him winning, taking a revenge for how he was humiliated and his wife was humiliated, it would be just an ordinary person. But if he performs the same action for what, protection of dharma and for the well-being of many people, then that's a different type of action altogether. So that means when you perform an action, what is your intention? The action could be the same, but what is your intention will make that action, whether it is really an exalted action or not. So this is what he says.
Can I take this a little further to an extreme situation?
Yeah, no, but here he has to say first, let's hear what he's saying. Then we will take some other scenario. Because let's first hear what Krishna is saying. Okay? So now he's talking about, in the next verse, he's talking about this idea of yajna. So we will read that. So in answer to Arjuna's question, Lord Krishna is introducing another idea, which is yajna. Okay? Yajnathat karmano nyatra lokoyam karma bandhanaha tadartham karma kaunteya mukta sangas samachara. So the same action that you do just for your personal benefit, if you change the attitude and you do it for the sake of yajna. What is this yajna? Yajna, this is an imagery used by Lord Krishna. Yajna is actually nothing but a normal, this Vedic ritual. Vedic ritual where you fire ritual. Okay? So that means you sit there, you have a fire, and then you perform a certain action, and in fact fire is only a carrier. So you can say Indraya Swaha, Agnaye Swaha, Varunaya Swaha. So you actually send all your prayers to different entities in the universe, but you actually offer it to Agni, and Agni is supposed to be a carrier. It takes your prayers to wherever it is supposed to go. Okay? So this is what we do. Now, what is the idea of this yajna? Okay? The idea of yajna is something which is very potent. Okay? What it says is that the whole world that you live in is an interconnected world. Okay? So that means all of us, we generally think that I am me against the world. Okay? Now that whole idea has to change into world as one system in which different individuals are acting, and each one is connected to the other through series of laws. Okay? So the way we act not only determines our well-being, but also what? The overall well-being of the world. Even though you don't see it, the laws, when we say laws of cause and effect, they are connecting it. Okay? So if you begin to see yourself as part of one integrated system, which is amazing, it's like a car. Okay? Now imagine each car part thinks that I'm just separate and everything else is a separate, and starts comparing that, oh, I'm the kind of this little thing in my engine, and this air conditioning is so much better, and so imagine what a chaos it will be. Okay? But if each part understands that I am operating within a bigger, larger system where each part has its role to play and its different role to play, and each part is very much required for the car to function as it is meant to function. So the whole universe is like that. Okay? The whole universe is one whole big yajna, where each character is different, endowed with different skills, different abilities, different capacity to act, and there it is not just, how do I manipulate the situation to maximize my gain, but what? How can I contribute, okay, to this whole system in a way which will not only bless me, but it will what? Create a much better system as a whole. Okay? And this is through this yajna, you're reminded your connection with everything else. Okay? Because otherwise what happens? We tend to forget that. We tend to become very self-centered. So through this Vedic ritual, you bring to mind this fact that you are connected. Okay? Now, in that connection, the world is set up in a way that you are basically a consumer. A consumer. So that means every small, you can have very simple life. You can say, oh, I want to simplify my life, I want to have simplest house, right? But even to make that simplest house, how many people will work? You want the simplest meal. Even to have that simplest meal, how many people will work? Okay. So that means with the most basic life that you want to live, okay, still you have thousands of people working for you. Then imagine if your consumption needs are even greater, and then you want even more and more and more. Okay? So world is set up in a way that not only people work for you, but the forces are working for you. Okay? So So that means you take so much. And where is your attention? Taking more and taking more and taking more. And when you don't get what you want, dissatisfied. Now, if you understand the fact that I'm already taking so much more than what I'm giving back, where will your attention be? If you shift based on just these facts, okay, already the forces, the people are working for me to have all the things that any privileged human being has. So now it is enough. I can still enjoy it, but if I shift my focus into contribution, my life purpose becomes different. Okay, I become, I change the psyche from a dissatisfied human being to a psyche of gratitude. Already so many things are working for me. When there is a psyche of gratitude, there is what? Bigness happens naturally, contribution happens naturally, but not with this conceit that look at this, now I'm doing this, right? It happens with humility. The humility, because there is, no matter how much you give, you can never exceed
What you take,
what you get.
getting.
If that is the reality, then what? I'm humble. I give because it's natural for me to give. Okay? And that is a huge shift in a human being, in the maturity of human being. Okay? So that is one aspect of this whole understanding of yajna. Now let's bring back Arjuna's position. Okay? Now Lord Krishna is telling him, if you fight for the sake of just getting back to your cousins for all the wrong that they have done, you are just like any normal person. But imagine you understand that there is this whole ecology of things. Now there is a wrong person who is in the position of power. Okay? Now many people cannot fight this powerful person. But in the scheme of things, you are placed in a way that you have the skills, okay, and you have the capacity to fight. And if you don't rise up to this challenge, then what? You have not done your part in the overall scheme of things. Okay? So the same action, he says, either you can do it just as a personal revenge, or you can do it understanding the yajna. Okay? So therefore, in fact, this is something which we human beings, we do it anyway. Okay? So for example, when Hitler was creating all these horrible crimes and atrocities against Jews, the humanity fought him, right? You can't just let him do whatever he wants. So this is why there is a value which is ahimsa, but the ahimsa value also needs to be interpreted at different times. Okay? Sometimes you need to stand up against a power which is a corrupt power. Because if you let somebody who's not a good human being in the position of power unchallenged, then there is a lot of harm done to society as large. So this is why Arjuna was told, yajnartha, if you understand that you are in that unique position to fight this person who is corrupt, and if you don't rise up to that, then you are not doing what needs to be done. You disturb the overall ecology. Yeah.
So I have a question.
Yes.
Now everything is about intentions. Why you do it, right? Now some people will be in the illusion that I'm doing it for no, like best example about Hitler. He thought Hitler. At the point I picked up on was, and it's not an example of Hitler, something which inspired my thoughts on that. That one is personal revenge, other is for the greater good. Now in Hitler's mind, probably he was thinking that I am ridding the earth of a certain race for a higher purpose in his mind. It was not a personal revenge against some one person, right?
Yeah.
Now he's obviously deluded.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I'm thinking that I see so many people in the world who are doing stuff with the illusion that I'm doing it for a greater good, but actually it's a very petty thing.
Yeah.
So how does it work there? How do
So
what's
that
happening
means
there?
what we are trying to do is the world, there are laws. Okay? So you can be deluded, but that means that doesn't make it a law. In the sense that in the eyes of laws, it's true, everybody, I mean the law will ensure that you pay for all the deeds that you have done, right? So the whole attempt is not to justify but to understand how laws operate and to realign your thinking in keeping with realities. This is why the whole commitment is to truth, right? The commitment is not to just somehow making believe or justifying things.
But even Mahabharata, the trigger was to
Yeah.
avenge Draupadi for a long time. It's only with the entry of Krishna that it became a Dharamka youth. But most of the triggers during the story were of personal,
And this is why, in fact, the whole Mahabharata story shows that it's not that all the characters are doing right things. The story of Mahabharata shows that even the most exalted people at times don't interpret the dharma correctly. Okay? So that means Lord Krishna represents that wisdom which is seeing things accurately. Okay? Others are looking at it from a very partial standpoint. So their understanding of what happened to Draupadi was okay. She somehow the Yudhishthira had a free will, and he used that free will to play a game of dice. Okay, and he used what this game of dice in a way which was wrong. Okay. He sold his brothers, he sold his wife, he sold himself, he lost everything. Okay? So therefore, this is something that even somebody who's so exalted like Yudhishthir, he made that mistake. So we are not exalting Yudhishthir for that. We are showing that you can be highly accomplished person, highly dharmic, but you can totally be misguided by something or the other, because he failed to interpret the fact, because there is something called a dharma, that when a king is invited to play a game of dice or whatever, then the king has to honor it. Okay? Now he just went blindly by it. What is required is an interpretation. If he knew that Duryodhana is not somebody who is going to play a straight game, and Shakuni was going to who was going to manipulate, he did not have to accept the invitation. So that means here it shows actually the weakness of somebody who's totally getting carried away by one view of dharma and does not take into consideration the totality of situation. And this is something which is shown again and again and again. And this is why, as far as Drona was concerned, Bhishma was concerned, he's saying that now Yudhishthira is lost, so what can we do about it? That was his understanding. Okay? Krishna sees the overall. His understanding of dharma is something where he sees many, many different dimensions of what happened. He saw the fact that Duryodhana was not playing a fair game in the first place. Okay? And then Draupadi herself was manipulated because Yudhishthira had first lost himself. In fact, Draupadi asks and says that who did Yudhishthira lose first? He says he lost himself first. And he said if he himself is a slave, what right does he have to bet me? Okay? So then she asked that. So she was very clever, but nobody was listening to her. Okay? So this is where Lord Krishna sees the totality of situation and does what needs to be done. Everybody else gets caught in their narrow perspective of what dharma is. Okay? So in fact, Mahabharata shows you how to at times interpret dharma and how to do it accurately.
I have a point, and one point it clarifies my mind. Because I was thinking that in the world might is right. You know, the Europeans go into America and destroy the Indians, and that's it, and they take over America. Or in Australia the Aborigines are. Or in India the Adivasis are put into the forest. But after some time The laws take
The
place.
laws, exactly.
And the Americans will have to pay for what they have done.
Absolutely.
Because the world is rebelling against it.
Yeah.
And the tribals are doing Maoist war for what you did thousands of years ago. But sometimes some tribes can be completely destroyed, zero. How will anybody pay?
But what then happens is that
Somebody
you have
else.
this law of karma in a sense that you come back in some other form where so that means there is a lot of things happening at a global level. So this is how it is unfathomable.
Or
How those
another way to
variables
look at it is civilizations rise and fall.
They fall.
From
Absolutely.
Roman and
Because if
Hindu
they
and American and European.
The minute you start adding distortions, at some point it breaks down. And this is what we've seen, all these, these American civilizations,
Yeah.
personalities, everybody.
Yes.
Yeah, this during this colonization, Britishers thought that the sun never sets on British Empire and all down, right? Then the Americans rose and now they are on a decline. So that means that every time that you start justifying because of your power and do things which are, and you think that you are doing it for the greater good, but you can't fool the laws. Okay? So they catch up with you, and this is what happens in fact even in a very simple thing like the recent economic and financial crisis. Okay, so what happened, this Wall Street people started giving housing loans to all the people who could not afford to repay, and they knew it very well. Okay? So therefore what they knew that the loans are given to people who are unable to repay, so then they created subprime products, okay? And they wanted to diversify the risk. So what did they do? They created these products and what everybody bought around the world, thinking that these are the products which are coming from Wall Street. What happened? Because it was based on wrong fundamentals, it collapsed. It had to collapse. Okay? So we human beings, we think we are very smart and we think that we can outsmart the laws, but we can't. So that means a smart living is to identify how the laws work and realign your thinking in keeping with that, so that you act in keeping with them.
No, but in that case, doesn't Jo Jeeta Wohi Sikandar, I mean, say for example, right now the e-commerce is getting so much of funding and we are all saying wow, wow. Now a bubble may be building, we don't know yet. But if this thing works, okay, then the world will get transformed from buying in the normal way to the e-commerce way. Civilizations go that way. So whatever fails, we pinpoint and say, look, this didn't work. But then when 10 things happen, 5 work and 5 don't.
Yeah. But e-commerce, where is adharma there? I don't
No,
see any
no,
adharma. So
adharma
exactly.
nothing.
So that's what I'm saying, right? So that means you try many things. There is no problem.
Why I am saying comparing with the financial crisis is, at that time the leveraging or housing for all was a kind of, we have a benefit of hindsight that right now we are saying a khotu. Maybe at that point you would not have said that.
Well, I think they knew that the loans were made to people with very, very low credibility. And in fact, that's why they are now looking into the laws, federal laws, and how they have, liberalized. But what I want to say is, if there are wrong fundamentals somewhere it will catch up. Okay? So that's what. But if you're trying different things and you're not going against the laws, then there is nothing wrong in trying, right? So
with the right intention, if you do things has to work, let it be e-commerce or anything. But intention was not right in that housing loan.
Exactly.
They were clear.
No, I still feel that we have a benefit of hindsight and therefore we are saying
that is
this.
okay, Pallavi, because we do not have the capability of understanding everything. That is okay.
That's
so
okay.
that sometimes afterwards only you know कि इसमें क्या गलती हुई.
That's what.
That doesn't mean right or wrong.
It was based on the assumption why they accepted the risk of taking these bad loans, because they assume that in any way the real estate market will continue to grow.
Correct.
So then they are covered as bankers.
Yes.
As it will continue to grow, they will get anyway more values and they will have. So that was the assumption.
Yeah, that was the assumption, and the second assumption or the second aim was housing for all. That demand will never dry up.
Exactly.
Yeah. I know.
So the laws of the world will take these bugs. There is an up and down in the economy. So to assume that it will grow all the time forever itself is a mistake.
There is one sentence, one statement here I think we have to examine, which is saying if we do things with the right intention, it will work.
Need not.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because results are not in your hand.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Because
Okay,
the
it's very
results
important.
are taken care of by so many different variables, right? So once you understand that, but your proper intention is non-negotiable also. That doesn't mean that you have wrong intention, right? Because the laws will also take into consideration your variables, this intention plus other variables.
My fundamental question is the laws of the world are a given. So whatever your intention, the laws will take place. So how does it matter whether your intention is good or bad?
Because you are constantly creating new causes, no? So if the laws are cause and
But the
effect
universe as a
relationship-
whole is much more powerful than the individual's attention. So Hitler can do what he likes. He'll finally get defeated because of the universe.
No, but universe acts through
Somebody.
human beings, no? It
If you have
doesn't
right
just
karma,
act.
it will minimize your losses or negative impact.
See,
Try your
even things like, for example, the present state of environment, okay, that we face.
Yeah.
It is an action of whose?
People.
So many people starting from the industrial age, right? So we are not disconnected from all these different actions. Who's putting together all these different causes and effect to give us this state of
Even
environment?
before the industrial age.
Exactly. So that's what. But I mean, just going back
Yeah.
for convenience, right? Now, even though all of us on this earth are facing the same environmental challenges, we are placed differently. Okay? Because I was posted in Fiji, and there it is life-threatening. Most of these islands will
Amazing.
submerge, yeah, because of a rise in sea level. Okay, so that means on this earth they face this particular impact differently than we do. Okay? Then even within Bombay, people who drive and they have an air-conditioned car have a different kind of an impact of the environment than people who travel by suburban. So that means there is one thing called one given for everyone, but within that each one has its unique place. Who is doing all this? This is what we call the laws. Okay? Each one is placed exactly where the person has to be and go through life and one's challenges in a given way.
See, if you look at the earth, for instance, historically, there were so many continents, they came together, India came and planned against Asia and the Himalayas. How does it matter what individuals do or don't do?
No. There are many different laws which apply. There are laws of physics which apply. There are laws
So
of gravity.
one day the earth will
which
be
apply.
destroyed. So क्या human being है कि नहीं है, धर्म पाला कि नहीं, क्या फर्क पड़ता है?
I think it will definitely see, because for us
No, I am seeing these are questions.
the nature of the world is, we will see how it is, because it is cyclical in nature, it's not
Yes,
linear.
it
Okay?
is.
So therefore, when it is cyclical in nature, there are manifestation and unmanifestation, manifestation and unmanifestation. So that means the jiva that we say
Yes.
continues, right? So that means your
It will come in some other
continues.
form, in
Yeah,
some other
another
place.
form. Yeah, exactly.
So last
So-
question on the intention part, just going back to what you said. Now, suppose there is a lady of the house and her mother-in-law is very, very mean, let's say. But she still does the seva. Okay, one is this. But while she's doing the seva, she is actually really hating her. But she still does her work as a daughter-in-law. So does that become she's not doing a good karma? The intentions are
See, what we say is that there are gradations. See, there is no such thing called good action or bad action. There are all shades, right? So that means like a simple thing. I'll tell you. I think I've explained in this class this Danam. Danam is a charity. Itself, Lord Krishna in 17th chapter, he says that something is sattvic, something is rajasic, and the other one is tamasic. When you give with an intention of really helping somebody, and your focus is the need of the other person, it is what we call sattvic. Okay. Now, the same charity, if you do with an intention that I want to appear as a philanthropist, or my name has to appear in a newspaper or whatever, it becomes what? Rajasic, right? And we are not calling it bad or anything. It's not like, oh, this is bad. It's not bad. But the result for a sattvic charity will be higher than rajasic. Okay. Then tamasic. Tamasic is sometimes that you spoil your children by overgiving, for example. Okay. That you don't use your discretion. How much to give, when to give. So that is what we call tamasic, because you are giving, but what impact it is having on the receiver. Or you give nowadays in India this money transfer has become a huge issue because so much money comes to fund terrorist organs. So they all come as charity, okay, but it goes to fund terrorist activities. So this is again tamasic. So here again you have shades and shades and shades. Okay? So we don't have we don't have this black and white view of the world. We say that there are too many nuances, and therefore a cultivated mind is able to assess all the different nuances as accurately as possible. Nobody knows all the variables, but the attempt is to be refined in your judgment rather than seeing the world through this black and white lenses. So this is what you need to have, a cultivated, subtle mind which is able to see finer things and able to interpret things accurately. So this is what we are trying to achieve, right? So this is what the idea of yajna, and he says that once you perform yajnathat karmano nyatra loko yam karma bandhanaha. So if you use this karma for the sake of playing your part in the large scheme of things, then your whole, how will you become not just an ethical person with certain equanimity when the results come, but you become a bigger human being, okay, who's focusing on your contribution and who is basically grateful for things in the world. Now, this particular thing of this interconnectedness, if you don't take into account, I just want to give you a small story, because when Ashok told me that Gandhiji's favorite 3 gurus he had, and one of them was Tolstoy. So last summer I had gone and I was doing this Ayurveda treatment in Kerala, and I came across a book of Tolstoy. It was short stories of Tolstoy, and within that story there was one little story of which was called, I think I told you that story, Forged Coupon. Did I tell you that story?
I don't.
You don't know? Okay. So this story is an amazing story which shows that if you don't take into account the interconnectedness and you just do small actions, okay, what kind of an impact it has. Now the story starts with, it is set in Russia, and there was his father who was reading his newspaper on a Sunday afternoon, and this little boy comes to him and he says that, "Father, give me my monthly allowance." So he is supposed to get his monthly allowance. So his monthly allowance is 2 rubles. Okay. And the father says, "Okay, now I'll give you," there was a coupon. So he says, "Okay, I'll give you this 2 ruble coupon as your monthly allowance." So the boy says, "But this month I need 10 rubles. His father says, "Why? Why do you need 10 rubles? So he says, there was this show on the street, and that cost 6 rubles, and I went with my friend. It was an opera, it was a classical dance performance, and I really wanted to go. So I borrowed 6 rubles from my friend and I went for this show. And I promised my friend that I will return at the end of the month when I get my allowance." So now the end of the month has come and I want can you give me this 10 rubles, so I keep 2 rubles, I give him 6 rubles, 8 rubles, right? So, and then I return to him 6 rubles and then I will be fine. Okay. Now father said, no way. He said, why didn't you ask me when you went? How can you just go and spend money like that? Now you figure out how you are going to manage this. You didn't ask for my permission, so now I'm not going to give you anything more. So he just hands him these 2 rubles and says, now you figure it out. Now the boy, he wanted to be honest. He wanted to return money to his friend and he didn't do anything wrong. He didn't go and have a glass of vodka or anything like that. He was just going for a cultural show. Okay. Now he felt stuck. He didn't know how to repay his friend. So he goes to another friend and he says, can I borrow 6 rubles from you? The friend says, I don't have that kind of money to give you. So he says, but you know, I've promised this friend and I need to repay. So the other friend says, okay, I have an idea. This is okay, what is your idea? So he says, now what did you get as an allowance? I said, I just got my 2 ruble coupon, not a currency but coupon. So he says, okay, now I can show you one trick. You just add 1 in front of this 2 ruble
12.
and it will become 12 ruble. Okay. So now let's make it, and that's why the short story was called Forged Coupon. Okay. Then the boy had no other option. He wanted, it's not that he was a criminal and he wanted to cheat, he wanted to be honest. Okay. And he saw no other option. So he said, he went along with his friend and said, okay, now let's write 1. So the coupon became forged. So he says, now immediately you need to encash it, because then only you can pay your friend. So they both go to a little shop around the corner and they buy some sweets. They buy the sweets of 2 rubles. Okay. They give this 12 ruble coupon, this 10 ruble coupon. What happened? 12, yeah. Then this lady, she sees these 2 little boys, just innocent boys. So she gives them sweets and they give coupon and she gives the change. They buy 2 ruble sweets, so she gives them like 10 rubles. Okay. Now the boys are very happy. They said, oh, now they have 10. Immediately the boy runs and pays 6 rubles to his friend. Okay. And he's still left with 4. So he says, now I have double allowance. Okay. So that means he's really happy. So they both go home, they think that they have solved the problem. Then the story goes on and the story says, now the story is set at the shop at night. The night the wife is closing the store, the husband comes to do the accounting. Okay. Now the husband is seeing he's doing the accounting and he immediately sees a coupon and he figures out that it is forged. So he says, but who gave you this coupon? And she said, these 2 boys came. She thought about it and she says, yeah, these 2 boys came and they bought some sweets and all. And he started shouting at her. Okay. He said, what? You are such an emotional fool. Some 2 little boys came and you don't even pay attention to how this coupon is, and you just start, you are so careless, and I can't trust you with anything, and I have to be around because, and he almost started abusing his wife. And in the meantime, what is the wife thinking? Wife is thinking, why did I marry this man? My parents always told me that he was an angry person, right? And he is just, for every small thing, he just blames me. He doesn't understand anything all the time. He just keeps finding faults and blames me and calls me incapable and all that. So there was this huge fight that was taking place. Okay. Then the man, he still had to look for some solution as to how to get rid of this forged coupon, right? So now he goes, he says, now in this city people will figure out very easily. So let's go a little bit far away, okay, to a small village, right? And he goes to a little peasant and he buys wood because Russian winters are very cold. Okay? So he says, okay, now let me buy this wood and let me give the coupon. So now this little peasant, he was looking for somebody to buy his wood. He's so happy to receive 12 rubles and he sells. So now this man comes home saying what? Now I have got rid of it, I have got lots of wood for the winter and I have solved the problem. Okay. Now this peasant is ecstatic that he has received so much money all of a sudden. So at night he goes to a bar to celebrate and buy, he had a couple of vodkas. And then he gave this coupon as a payment and the bar owner immediately knew that it was forged. So he immediately calls the police and takes this peasant to the jail. Okay. And the story goes on and it shows how many people are affected by one act of two people. Okay. Now who is at fault? In this story, who is at fault?
Father.
Exactly.
Starts with father, yes.
Starts with father. And how many people are impacted, how many things happen. And this is what our life is all
And the
about.
father's intention was to,
Exactly.
to
Absolutely.
discipline the child.
Absolutely. So that means if you don't play your roles accurately, generally what you could do better? Tell me as a father, what can you do better?
No, in some books, this is a good parenting book, is showing the consequences of your actions. In some parenting book, it's a good act. You said, okay, you've done something.
No, but
deal with it,
as
figure
she
it out.
says, if you hindsight, what he should have done is given him the $6 and for the next 3 months you're not going to get a job. Something like that.
You know, you can always communicate to the child, try to solve the problems
Now you
together.
you write
Rather
a short
than
story.
nobody
Non-story ki jagah
Yes.
pe.
Sorry?
No, I was telling him now he is going to write a short story. I'm sorry.
No. So what
You're right, it
happens?
has to be.
No, but I tell you as a parent,
Yeah.
all your actions you know afterwards whether it was right or wrong. You
I know.
from the consequences.
The other story could be that the boy was doing a fast one and he gave the pen, they went and partied and they drank something and hit somebody and somebody got killed in a road accident.
So this is why what we need to do is we need to sit with the child and determine what is the truth, right? And come up with certain solutions which are together. This rule-based parenting is something which is not need-based parenting, right? You just decide this is the rule and you're so insensitive sometimes and you don't incorporate what is the reality of the situation. So our attempt is not to find out the reality but just that what I think is right, my rules are right. We are so rigid sometimes, okay? And that rigidity at times can cost a lot. Okay? So this is where we say that when we say that I want to grow as a human being, what does it mean? Not just continue to do things as whatever comes to our mind and our rule based. You need to become a much more subtler person. Because everything you can always justify and you can always say, yeah, but but that's not what it is. The laws are such that there are laws at work and you are part of this whole system. And you can't fool the system. And what you do impacts not only you, but it impacts the whole system. So this is a reality. Now the reality is this, either you align yourself to this fact and help yourself and enhance your being and enhance the well-being of everything else, or you can continue to justify and you can have hundreds of logics to kind of try to circumvent it, but it is not going to help anyone because the laws will continue to what?
The only
Operate.
problem is, that people who are in good circumstances, it's an okay thing. But look at the Yazidis or Syria, those children, little children, what have they done? They are all the time getting beaten and killed. And so how will they look at life? What are they to be grateful for?
No, 1 minute. The thing is, the whole spirituality is about ourselves. Okay? Generally what happens is that you don't need to take burden. The last time, I think I ended by saying that there was this whole thing that we carry so much burdens for actions of others. Okay? And in carrying those burdens, we don't pay adequate attention to others. It's a good escape route. To say, this is a problem, that is a problem. True, it is a problem, and in fact, those decisions are made by people who are misguided. Okay, but here we are also equally misguided at times, and we participate in this whole process, and we don't correct ourselves, right? So that means that talking about the world, there is no end to it. Okay, but
we should look at it. Magar mujhe kya?
Exactly. So that means, how do I change as a human being? It's a nice escape route to say, yeah, but what happens to that child and this child? It's true, but they are all within that order, and order is taking care of everyone. Okay, so you only need to think about what you
But there
can
are
do.
again two ways of looking at it. Either you become self-centered,
No, you
or you
can.
become a Gandhi.
No.
He was not self-centered.
This is why we say that
So
maturity.
he was worried about the whole world, how they are suffering, and he
One
did what he did.
So that's
And
why.
if we say कि खाली मेरा सोचो,
No, Mera Yagnatha, what did we study?
Yeah.
The last verse, what did we study?
true.
We talked about contribution. We didn't talk about selfishness. We talked about growing and
Yeah,
understanding
contribute. That is the
that.
important.
Yeah, exactly. So that means
Not being
that is-
self-centered.
No. Pay attention to yourself means your growth.
Yes.
And your growth means that you can become the contributor. Okay. So that means if you start becoming a contributor, you inspire what?
True.
Quite a few people. Okay.
Or
And
you
those
unite
people in return will what? Inspire others.
Yes.
And this is how you start a chain. Right?
True.
Because being dissatisfied about
Yeah.
things doesn't get you anywhere. It just
Absolutely.
puts
No,
you
no. Being
in that.
dissatisfied, you must change, not just keep
Be the
going.
change.
Exactly.
Be the change
Be
you
the
want
change.
to see.
And this is where you see that when you pay attention to your change, why is it that Gandhi became a person, people were willing to sacrifice everything, that including their lives, and go through a lot of pain for this one thing of what? Indian independence. How?
Or even
How can one
Satyarthi,
person?
for that
Exactly.
matter. Just last week.
Yes.
Yeah. How can, because the person has a certain conviction, the person has a certain strength, and we all can be that person. Okay? And this is what we talk about, personal transformation. Okay? And this is what Gita is talking about. So that is the third aspect of Karma Yoga, which is becoming a contributor and seeing yourself as part of one whole system, and what you do affects the whole ecology, not only you. Okay? So that is very much part of growth, being a good human being. Okay? So that is the third
Thank you.
aspect of
Thank you
Karma.
so much.
Thank you.
Do you have a Twitter handle?
Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om